So, welcome back to Flourish week 3. This week is going to be fun. We're going to kind of introduce our plate, kind of how we want to eat at each meal, and really talk about fruits and vegetables in a little more depth. Don't forget to fill out your weekly tracker. I did add that in the chat. It's always in my follow-up emails as well. So don't forget to look at those. So let's recap from last week. We discussed physical activity. Remember, the physical activity guidelines for Americans recommend that we practice moderate intensity physical activity for 150 minutes a week or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity weekly. So in addition, we want to try to do that strength training exercise twice a week. If you're needing that refresher, that moderate intensity activity, you're able to talk while you're doing it, but you can't sing. And then if you're doing vigorous, you can't say more than a few words without needing to catch your breath. So for moderate, that could be walking briskly, maybe water aerobics, gardening. And then vigorous could be like jogging, race walking, swimming laps, jump roping, aerobic dancing. Again, using that breath and ability to talk or sing can help decipher between the two. We know that physical activity is so important for our bodies and our health. It helps decrease the risk of death, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. It can help improve your blood sugar and help with weight loss as well. So remember that pyramid I showed you guys last week, and really just trying to make movement part of your lifestyle. And we had that graph of like, okay, let's get up and go take a water break, or let's stand and work, or we're doing household chores that allow us to get up and move. So just making movement part of our everyday life and trying to lower the inactivity, the sitting. So even if you have a show you want to watch, maybe you do some squats or do some stretching during it. So excited to see what all you guys did over the last week. So our target last week was to incorporate movement into your day 3 times over the week. To help you achieve it, you're supposed to choose a day, time, and activity and try to stick to it. So I want to hear from you guys in the chat. What activity did you do last week? And if you notice any barriers, share those as well that occurred. One of those barriers could be the weather this week for sure, because if you were going to the gym, they may be closed. You may not be able to get out of your driveway. So that would definitely be a barrier. Rethink what our exercise goal will be for the week. So I'm going to give you all a minute to share what activities you did, or maybe how you limited inactivity as well. Joanne says she cleaned her house and small DIY projects. Being stuck inside all weekend definitely make you get some cleaning and DIY stuff done. That's fun. Walking. The weather is definitely a barrier to getting some exercise in. YouTube videos would be another good one too, since we can do that at home as long as we have power. Weights, housework, walking in the neighborhood the first part of the week, trying to get active in the house nowadays. Trying to get some extra workouts in, clean the house, walked up and down the stairs, stretched before bed, barriers carving out the time. Yes, time is definitely hard, and just trying to be intentional about choosing the time, and maybe, trying first thing in the morning before you get going so that you can kind of knock it out. Did one of the exercises that was recommended on the Heart Program Friday. Thank you for sharing that, Sonia. That's awesome. I'll have to let Ryan know. So last Friday, there was a Best Fit for cardiovascular health. So that should be up hopefully soon. I'll try to get that link to be able to share with y'all if you want to go back and watch it. All right. Started walking during my lunch break for 15 minutes and did nightly exercises for 2 days. Yay! I love that. That's awesome. Share exercises 3 times for 10 minutes. Good job. Helped clean my church and went shopping. Travis, I wonder, did you go to, who was it? I don't think it was this class. One of my classes was joking that they walk around Home Goods as their exercise. So clean the house, felt like I had energy you get when you're about to have a baby. Yeah, that's so funny. Got to clean thoroughly. That's awesome. Walking and cleaning. Okay, everybody was cleaning this weekend. Look at you guys go. I feel like I was cleaning mostly like cleaning up after eating, at home for 3 meals and that kind of stuff. But all right. Well, I'm proud of you guys for adding in that movement, and I don't want y'all to get off track this week just because the weather is crazy. So think about ways that if you are stuck in the house that you can get that exercise in. If you had issues getting it in because of time, rethink like, okay, what did I try last week and like how did it go? If it didn't go well, maybe we try a different time of day this week or a different day of the week. So don't just stop because it didn't work. Think through it and try again. Okay. Today we're going to introduce that Flourish plate and how to build a balanced plate. Balance helps us include nutrients that will nourish our bodies and help us feel full and satiated longer. So this is a plate that was adapted from my plate, Harvard plate, and the Mediterranean plate. It's a great visual to put together a meal. So let's look at what all we're going to include. So you can see on the left side of the plate, we're going to break it up into quarters, right? So we want at least of our quarter of our plate being vegetables. If you have diabetes, I would say you really want half of this plate here to be non-starchy vegetables. Okay, so just think about that if you have trouble with your blood sugar. Okay, the rest of us, a fourth of the plate could be a fruit, another fourth a whole grain, another fourth of protein. Okay. And then around the outside of the plate, there are other foods to incorporate into our diet. So water, we know that we want to be working on that, and that's one of our goals for Flourish, to get 7 to 8 cups a day. For the fats, just really trying to incorporate some healthy fats in our meals. So olive oil, avocados, nuts, fatty fish, all really great for us and good ways to enhance flavor, or maybe you use them when you're cooking as well. Herbs and spices. So we know that we like salt and pepper, but maybe we try to season with other things like basil, oregano, paprika, garlic powder. So there's going to be benefits from all these different herbs and spices, and not necessarily having to add a ton of salt. Okay, because we know that salt sometimes can affect our blood pressure as well. And then for dairy, we can add to our plate. I know it's kind of on the side just because it could go with protein maybe. I know some people don't eat dairy and they may have lactose intolerance. So, but dairy is a great product. It has potassium. Sometimes they have vitamin D, calcium, protein. So great food to add to our plate as well. So over the next few weeks, we're gonna break up these sections and go through each one and why we want to include it and kind of how to actually add them into your diet. Okay, so one thing you may have noticed when looking at that plate is that it's full of whole foods. And if you looked at the new dietary guidelines, they are again pushing for those whole foods. And that's really what we all want to be doing. So whole foods have been processed or refined as little as possible, and they're free from additives or artificial substances. So to me, I like to think about things that walk the earth or are grown in the ground. So fresh fruits and vegetables, and it doesn't necessarily have to be fresh, but like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, proteins like your animals and your plant proteins, things like that. So not packaged and processed. So they're going to be higher in vitamins, minerals, and fiber, lower in calories, and they may help reduce risk of disease. So eating more whole foods does take some time and planning, but we're going to talk about those some easier ways just to add these foods into our diet. Another thought that a lot of people have is that these foods are expensive. And again, there's some ways that we can cut corners and still eat whole foods and just buy them at a lower cost. So we'll try to mention some of those as well. So the ultra processed foods are the ones we want to eat less of. They're going to be made mostly from substances extracted from food, such as fats, starches, added sugars, and hydrogenated fats. They may also contain additives like artificial colors and flavors or stabilizers. These are going to be like hot or cold packaged snacks, prepackaged meals, sodas, sweets, and sodas. They generally have long lists of ingredients, many of which you don't recognize. Um, they're usually higher in salt, calories, and fat, low or no fiber. They can be um, linked to cancer and heart disease. They're very convenient and sometimes they can be pretty expensive too. Okay, so to help kind of break this down, give you guys something to follow, we have the Flourish Food Guide. So this is in your guidebook. I think it's on page 10, if I remember correctly. So these are the foods that we want to eat more often. Okay. So you could print this out and kind of use this when you're trying to meal plan or build your plate. On the right, we have eat mindfully. So I am a human and I enjoy sweets and, um, you know, I love food. So there's sometimes that I want to have a piece of cake or whatever it is. So I just want y'all to know that, yeah, like I'm human, we're gonna do it. There's balance, right? So often we want to have the left side, those whole foods. Mindfully, we want to try to minimize intake of those fatty, sweet, savory, or salty packaged snacks, ice creams, frozen desserts, sodas, um, canned as instant soups. A lot of times they have a bunch of added salt, processed meats, breakfast cereals, bars, sweetened juices, frozen TV dinners. Okay. So I know sometimes in a pinch those can be helpful, but really trying to plan so that we can have more of those whole foods. Okay, yep. So page 10, this is that handout to look for. All right. If you're realizing that you eat a lot of processed foods, or you want to decrease your intake of processed foods, here are some tips planning ahead. So, like I mentioned, trying to do some meal planning or prepping so you have an idea of what you're going to eat. You go to the grocery store, buy those foods, and they're ready for you. Maybe you need to choose a couple of crock pot meals or like sheet pan meals so that it is more likely for you to actually prepare those meals and eat them. And so just thinking strategically, checking the ingredient list, choosing foods with the least amount of ingredients. Remember your why. So take some time to think about why you want to be healthier. Your reason may be different than someone else's. When you want to choose ultra processed foods or get tired of trying to choose whole foods, remember why you're doing this. So we're always going back to our why. Um, when I see patients, I always ask them, what is your goal to get us started? So I want you to think about with this program too, going back to like, what is your overall goal and why is that your goal? And so we can always kind of go back to that when we get in a rut. Stocking up on whole foods. So especially right now would have been a really great time to do this. Keeping healthy foods in the house so that when you're hungry or need something to eat, that's all you have. You may even consider pre-cutting fruits and vegetables to make it even easier for you. If you like right now, having like canned goods would be a really great option, or maybe even frozen vegetables. But I say canned goods, canned vegetables or beans are still great options. Just choosing the no salt added would be awesome. And then your frozen vegetables or fruits would be a good idea as well. All right. So let's chat about vegetables. So we're going to try to fill our plate with at least a fourth of the plate being a variety of vegetables. So you can see here, lots of different colors. It's not necessarily just one vegetable. Ideally, we would want our plate to be really colorful because we're getting different nutrients from different foods. So vegetables, they're going to be low in calories unless we add fat to them or whatever else to them. And some of them are low in carbs, not all of them, but some of them are. They're higher in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. The intake of vegetables can help reduce risk of heart disease and cancer. They help with blood sugar control and appetite. And then the variety is key. So trying to incorporate different vegetables into our diet weekly. So if you are someone that gets used to the same 3 to 4 vegetables, use this list to try something new. And this is part of our food guide too. So if you know me, I have a rule, and I have a lot of friends that don't like vegetables, and that's okay, but you can't tell me you don't like it until you try it multiple times. So we know that foods don't taste the same prepared in different ways. So let's talk about this. Broccoli does not taste the same raw, boiled, roasted. It tastes completely different in all those ways. And then if you season it differently, it's going to taste different as well. So just because you tried one food one way, you can't tell me you don't like it. So if you're looking at this list and like, I don't like any of those things, I want you to try it again and try it in a new way. Okay, this is pretty crazy. The CDC reports that only 1 in 10 Americans is eating the recommended daily serving of vegetables. This is why our goal for our plate is really trying to incorporate 3/4 of our plate being a plant food, because we're really good at the meats pretty much and maybe some carbs, but not really having those leafy greens and other vegetables. So 1 in 10 Americans. That is so crazy to me. So we have some work to do. All right, so there are many options available when choosing vegetables. It's important to choose the options that best fit your flavor profile, your budget, and your time frame. So looking here, we have fresh vegetables. You can find them in the produce section at the grocery store. You could have a garden and grow your own, or maybe you go to the farmer's market and get some vegetables. If you're looking for budget-friendly, fresh vegetables, looking for the ones that are in season or maybe on sale. For canned vegetables, they can be a great option, like I said, to stock up on, add to your pantry for quick preparation, or to choose a more budget-friendly vegetable. Look for vegetables that say no salt added or low sodium. And then frozen is another great option. They can be steamed in the microwave for quick preparation. They're great to keep in the freezer to have on hand. Just choosing the unseasoned vegetables or a vegetable without sauce is key, because oftentimes when they add a sauce or they add their own seasoning, they add sodium. So just buying them frozen in their natural state, and then adding your own seasoning. Like those herbs and spices we talked about. All right, there are a lot of ways to cook vegetables. So we could roast, microwave, saute, grill, steam. There is a website in your guidebook under the resources for this week called Cook Smarts. So if you are not a big, you don't really enjoy cooking or you don't do a lot of cooking, this would be a good place to start just to show you how to cook some different vegetables. Because there's lots of different ways. And like I said, when you prepare them differently, they taste a little different. So you may like one food prepared one way and maybe not another. Okay, so how do we incorporate these vegetables into our meals? So these are some common meals that a lot of us probably eat and some simple ways we can add more vegetables to it. So pizza, we can easily add maybe mushrooms, peppers, onions, or more tomatoes onto the pizza. When we have tacos, we could have a side of sauteed zucchini, yellow squash, onion, bell pepper, and mushroom. We love doing that. If you have spaghetti, instead of using the traditional noodles, you could try zucchini noodles or spaghetti squash. When you're having a salad or when you're having an entree, you could always have a salad with lots of vegetables on top. So not just necessarily the leafy greens, but trying to add maybe some raw veggies on top, like broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, cucumber. When you have spaghetti, try adding onion, bell pepper, carrots, lentils, or zucchini. So lentils can be a way to add some protein. You could, if you wanted to, you could cut back on some of the meat and then add lentils to add some protein as well and lots of fiber. And then chili, which would be great right now with how cold it is. You can mix spinach, canned pumpkin, beans, butternut squash, all into your chili to add some more veggies, fiber, etc. So hopefully these give you some ideas of just simple things that we can do to some of our very common American meals. If you guys have any other thoughts on ways to add veggies to your diet or ways that have been helpful for you, I would love for you to add those in the chat so that we can learn from each other. I'm going to keep going for the sake of time, but go ahead and add those if you have any thoughts. All right, so fruits, they're going to take up another fourth of our plate as well. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a fruit as the usual edible reproductive body of a seed plant. They have many benefits, so they can help reduce risk of heart disease and cancer. They're high in fiber and micronutrients like potassium and vitamin C and folate. They're lower in calories. They don't have cholesterol. We've heard that word fiber a lot, and we'll hear it a lot throughout this class, but fiber is really important, and most of us don't meet our recommended intake of fiber daily. So when we try to incorporate 3/4 of our plate being these plant foods, my goal and my hope is that we are meeting that goal more frequently. So fiber helps reduce blood cholesterol, helps protect proper bowel function, also can help protect against some cancers like colorectal cancer, can help with blood sugar control as well. So many benefits of fiber. Fruit is rich in potassium too, which can help maintain a healthy blood pressure. So bananas, prunes, honeydew, kiwi, those are some of those high potassium fruits. Here are some more examples of fruit. So again, if you have your typical rotation of 2 or 3 of these, try to mix it up and try some different ones. Again, we're getting some different nutrients from different foods. So 1 in 10 Americans eats the daily recommended intake of vegetables, but only 12% of Americans eat the daily recommended intake, which is 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit. So again, have lots of room for improvement here. We again can choose fruit, fresh, same thing, maybe at your grocery store in the produce section, maybe you grow it, maybe you go to the farmer's market. You can buy it canned or jarred. We just don't want to buy it with a bunch of added sugars. So sometimes they'll put it, in like a heavy syrup. Let's not do that. So maybe in its own water and its own juice, or no added sugar. Frozen, again, a great option, especially right now. Just check the ingredient list. We want to make sure that it's just fruit, no added sugar as well. So dried and juice are other forms of fruit, and they can be beneficial and can be really good in certain circumstances, like right now, for instance, or maybe if you're going on a hike or a backpacking trip and you need something that's non-perishable that you can take with you, those could be good options. However, these forms are not ones that we want to choose, I would say, all the time. We would rather choose the whole fruit. And I'm going to tell you why. So dried fruit tastes sweeter than its counterpart because it is sweeter. The drying process concentrates that naturally occurring sugar in the fruit. So let's just give you an example. 100 grams of a fresh apple has 10 grams of sugar, where 100 grams of dried apple has 57 grams of sugar. So dried fruit is going to be higher in sugar and also typically more calorie dense as well. So just being mindful of that. And then sometimes even dried fruits have added sugars to them. So if you're going to buy some dried fruit, just being intentional about looking at that ingredient list and making sure there's no added sugars with the nutrition facts label. Like I said, it is shelf stable, so it can be helpful, but really trying to choose more whole fruits most of the time would be ideal. Juicing and fruit juice removes fiber from the fruit. So we talked about all those benefits of fiber. So really trying to eat the whole fruit, or if you want to make a smoothie, blending it into the smoothie, you're still getting some of that fiber. So when we just take the juice out, it's kind of concentrating that juice. So 1 8-ounce cup of orange juice without pulp is 100 calories, 22 grams of sugar and no fiber. And then 1 orange is 70 calories, 12 grams of sugar and 3 grams of fiber. So you can kind of see the difference there. If you have trouble with your blood sugar, then choosing the whole fruit would definitely be the better option here. So we can eat fruit by itself for sure. That's one great way to enjoy it. You can also add it into baked goods, maybe like baked oatmeal or muffins. You can blend it into a smoothie, boil it to make a sauce or dessert or spread, or add it to the grill. Pineapples. Here are some ways just to add it into your meals on a daily basis. You can top yogurt, oatmeal, or chia seed pudding with fruit. Add it to the smoothie like we talked about. Maybe add grapes, pineapple, or apples to a chicken or tuna salad. Mixing fruit into your salad as well. Instead of chips, choosing fruits and nuts for a snack. And then topping fish or tacos with the fruit salsa. It's always a yummy treat and something different for your tacos. Okay, now that was a lot. I did a lot of talking. Hopefully you guys learned something new and learned some practical ways to add these foods into your meals daily. This week's target is going to be thinking about your next meal. How can you incorporate a vegetable and or fruit into your plate? So something to think about, how we can start adding these foods into our meals. Don't forget to turn in your weekly tracker today. Next week, we're going to go into proteins and grains. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But thanks for joining me this morning and stay warm. See y'all next week.